1:05, and I'd like to start our meeting. I'd like to start our meeting first with a karakia from you, please.
O tēnā tātou katoa, mihi tuatahi ki a koe Mexico matua, nō ka mihi ki a koe, o tira ki a koe Kawhia, I whāwā ki ta hara mai, Iaheri nei, te hui pāne ki te hitori o kā. Tuatoru atu ki a koutou te poari o Kawhia, o tira ki a tātou katoa, nā whanauna katoa, o aku whanauna, tēnei te mihi ki a koutou katoa. Nō rea ka inoi tātou I moto tātou hui. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mākina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai. E hi ake ana I te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hau, hu, ti hei, mauri ora. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you. All right. We have no apologies. Everybody's here. Apologies. So no late items. We don't need to have confirmation or order of the meeting. So is there any declarations of conflicts of interest?
Aye.
No, none of those? Do we need to pass that? No, that's all good. So we move straight on to the public forum. Sandra was going to come.
Yeah,
sorry.
I've got conflict of interest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, Otorohanga mai, I just didn't have time to go, but I have conflict of interest with the Runanga Ngāti Hikairo, if there's any kaupapa comes up, and also with the hall, if there's any kaupapa comes up with the community hall, and nō rea.
Right. Thank you. Do we need to pass that? Okay, I'd like to pass that and second it. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we move to the public forum. Sandra Drummond was coming, but she's not coming now. And go there, so that leaves us a bit of a late entry, but Tiki would like to say something. Thank you, Tiki.
All I want to know is, why was the portrait painted black? The latest bird has always been silver. I just want to know why it was painted black.
Is that the sign? Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I can speak to
that.
that.
Andrew will speak to that one.
So the brief for painting the sign was that the sign was assessed by the local the car painter, auto painter in Otorohanga, and his brief was to repaint the elements of the sign in the colour that they had on them. And at that stage, the eagle was black and the frame was blue. So he just repainted them in the colours in which they were.
It belongs to Otorohanga, so it's very personal for us, and really it should be in silver. So don't you think we should have been consulted in Kawhia?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, like I say, all we did was recoat the sign in the colours that were existing. So there was no change.
Whether it was a change or not,
No change.
No change. So the colour of the sign had never been raised as an issue from anyone in the community prior to that, and the painting of the sign was well broadcast through the meeting minutes and agenda and discussion in this forum.
Well, we've got a lot of feedback from people and they don't like it. For the simple fact it belonged to the lady, Otorohanga, it was her symbol.
So if I was to produce photographic evidence that it was erected with a black sign, would that suffice?
Well, I don't know, you'd have to go back to our iwi, to Ngāti Hikairo, even to the surrounding people in Kawhia, see how they feel about it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was no change proposed. We renovated the sign as it was.
Yes, I know you renovated, but it's the painting of it that's
Yeah, but he's saying they painted it the same colour that it was.
It wasn't black.
Yes, it was. It was.
It wasn't black. It's always been silver.
Right.
I've got the lady's flag and home kit.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a scarf to say that it was silver. It's
I don't think so.
Okay. Oh, well, we just
go home and get the flag. I go and get the flag and the scarf, and it is silver.
we just have to take this under advisement at the moment, and
That's what I have to say. Kia ora.
all right, thank you. What's the flag with the bird on as well?
Oh, okay.
Otorohanga on. Okay, now confirmation of minutes. What's the little beeping for?
Your phone.
Now I've turned mine off.
Oh.
It's this thing here.
Oh, it's that thing.
Can't remember the forum we've had that. Sorry?
I wasn't at the last meeting, so it's up to these gentlemen over here. Yeah, hang on, no, I was there, so.
Just look at this because you can't get on 22 September through confirmation of the declaration of interest. Well, the other one, this is our minutes. Minutes, so we're just on confirmation minutes. Okay, confirmation of minutes from our previous meeting. Anyone got anything they'd like to raise or? Chief?
Sorry,
Well, I understand.
on the floor, Mr. Chair.
Oh. Okay, sorry, Pa.
Firstly, thank you to Jeff and Kit for the hui last night. It was unfortunate that no other members were at that hui, but anyway, thank you. I'm going to bring up to the local body council in regards to the discussion we had last night, and that is the boat ramp. And I think that council, or whoever's sitting on council, they need to do something about that access. When we have, there are at least 5 competitions per year in Kawhia, fishing competitions. And during the busy season, which is Christmas time, we find it very hard to access to the marae because of all the parking. So the question is, what are you going to do about access? I think that you should be looking at another area for your boat parking. And I am aware that that particular area is private land, and there's an agreement between whomever and the landowners. I've spoken with the landowners as well, so that's what I'm putting on the floor. This is an ongoing issue. This is not a new issue. This has been brought forward before. And so we want to know what, or will you look at that? You're all aware that the parking down here during the fishing competitions, during the Christmas season, that it's hectic. So when we have anything at the marae or access to the back properties, we can't get through. We have to navigate our way through the boats, through the parking. So that's what I'm putting on the floor again, as I put that on the floor last night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take it into discussion in our.
Perhaps we could.
Well, we'll discuss it in our general business, don't we? Yeah. Okay. Well, so now we're on to confirmation of our minutes. So has anybody got anything to?
Just through the chair, just at the page 5, board members do their updates, you know, I suppose I'm the safety concerns with drug problem in the community and our CEO to indicate that the council team will be available to assist with community conversation on community safety.
Yeah, I'll think through you, Chair. I think probably we were waiting for the new start of the new training to talk about that, and in the context of the kicking off the Kawhia town concept plan, because it's kind of tied up in infrastructure and all the rest of it as well. I think that was the thinking there.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I had a too, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman. Sorry, I've got a bit of a bug today, so I'm wearing a mask, so sorry
Good on you.
Yeah, on page 3, about the Kawhia Leaseholders Association, the last sentence, Mr. Barnett requested a letter of support from the board. Were we intending to assist them in that respect? Because if we are, we probably need some appropriate resolution or something for, and how we word that, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was pointed out at the time that it's an issue between landlord and tenant, and we didn't think that the board and council had a role to play in that, but if there was some way in which we could convey concerns on behalf of the community, there may be some way in which we can word that. So, I don't know, I'm just bringing it up.
Okay,
Yep.
well, the leases are reviewed every 7 years.
Yep.
So I was a leaseholder myself 7 years ago with 2 properties, and I came to the board and asked for some assistance, and was told by yourself really at the time that it's between the leaseholders and the lessees. Correct. And it's nothing really to do with us. But that doesn't mean that we can't send a letter of support, because it is a hefty increase that they're facing at the moment. But that's because land values have gone up, and this happened back in 2008, 2010, I think. The leases skyrocketed because land values, but then, like what's happening now, the economy tipped over, and ended up through their leaseholders group getting a major reduction in the lease. So whether we want to be involved in that.
Yeah, I'm just raising it that I don't know whether the boards, because some of the members were in here previous meetings, so they may not have an opportunity to think about that, but whether you wanted to do something and support the leaseholders in some way or not, that's really up to you guys, and how you want to convey that support, I guess.
Well, you know, it's a factual matter. It's a matter between the married trustee and the individual leaseholders. Obviously, the board can have concerns about any impact it might have on the continued viability of the town.
Correct.
Quite clearly, if all the leaseholders moved out of town and nobody bothered to come back and replace them, that has a serious impact on it. But apart from perhaps urging both sides to come to a reasonable agreement, there's probably little else we can do. I do recall, I am also a leaseholder, and I do recall a few years ago now, a meeting in the hall here in which the married trustee and the owners' representatives and the leaseholders agreed that the best course of action would be to come to some arrangement that ensured there was no need to go to mediation and arbitration. And now we've come to the first round of lease renewals since that meeting, and instantly hit with we're going to mediation. So it's very difficult to understand why. The original concept was that they would have a valuation that was completed in the interests of both parties. And, you know, the idea was for it to become a simpler process that did not involve extensive amount of money on valuers, lawyers and mediation. But that seems to have been thrown out the window at the first opportunity after that meeting.
Is it thrown out by the trustees?
Yes, well, they're the ones that have called for mediation.
My understanding of it was that the last round was it went to arbitration, and the arbitrator agreed to be 4% of land value.
Yes.
But okay, the land values have skyrocketed up like they did prior to the 2008 financial crash. My personal feeling is I would like to sort of support them somehow with a letter, just to maybe make the trustees a bit aware of what, you know, we're facing a recession, the country, the world. Values are dropping, as the real estate indicators will tell you, and professionals. So I don't know what you think, but maybe they're just saying that this percentage increase with these land values again, because what they've said and predicted for the land values, or listing for, are already dropping. So you're paying a lease on something that's not even worth that anymore with this increase. So whether, I don't know, what you think about maybe drafting a letter to the Māori trustee saying that this could seriously impact our town economically. Because if you can't sell your place, what do? If you walk off, you're taken to court to keep paying. So in a bit of a no-win situation for, what is there, 90 leasehold properties?
Something like that.
In Kawhia?
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, over 80 anyway. Yep.
Mm.
And the problem, since I've been in town, it seems to me that a significant portion of the cost to leaseholders has gone through lawyers, valuers, mediators, arbitrators, and very little to owners.
Yeah.
Which seems pointless. Surely, in my view, it would be better for the owners to accept perhaps slightly less than they feel they're entitled to, and the leaseholders to pay perhaps slightly more than they feel they should, and then at least we don't need to involve lawyers, valuers, mediators, arbitrators, and so on.
Yes, the cost of doing that could possibly be offset by the increases or whatever that they're looking at anyway.
Yes.
Couldn't they?
Yeah. Well, one of the general outcomes is that the leaseholders are probably, in the end, better off if it goes to arbitration. I think we've had 2 mediations and one arbitration, and in each case, the decision came closer to the leaseholders' expectations than it was to the Maori trustees' expectations. In all cases, it was a compromise. So surely it makes sense to look for a compromise right now without involving expensive experts. However, that's a matter for the leaseholders and the Maori trustee to agree on. And perhaps the Chairman suggested we should send a letter, and perhaps in that letter we could point out that the owners are surely going to be better off if they're getting all of the lease they're entitled to, rather than the little bits that's left after a mediation. It ends up falling somewhere near the middle anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, I know last time we were mediating, getting ready for arbitration, and Tom come and saw me, Tom Oki over here, because he's one of the owners, and talking, and I asked him, did they have a payout at the time? And he said yes, they had, the owners had a $50,000 payout. And I said to him, well, look, if you look at the basics of it, there's 70 properties on the basic ones, there's another 20 on different leases, whatever, and each paying an average of $3,000 a year, so that's 210. And the owner's got 50, so the administration took 160, that's what the big problem is. The trustee and the thing are basically, I feel, robbing the owners.
Mr. Chief, may I suggest a way forward?
Yes.
So we just heard from Ken here that at the end of the previous round of negotiation there was a meeting where all the parties came together and they agreed on a way forward, perhaps to convene another meeting and review what was agreed at the end of that meeting, and from there maybe engage in a discussion about setting the rates going forward, with mindful of the fact that those property values maybe are looking to maybe level out or perhaps even fall a bit, and maybe a bit of a realistic middle ground could be reached without the need to go through the professional to and fro that you're concerned about.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, so Andrew, are you suggesting that the board should still send a letter conveying its concern but inviting the parties to come to a meeting?
I think conveying its concern about possibly a really steep increase in the rates on the fabric of the community, and you'd like to facilitate a meeting to, maybe just pick up where the last meeting left off and see if you can pick up on some of that sort of, it seems like a middle ground was reached. There was some sort of spirit of compromise there, so perhaps you can revisit that and get a resolution without toing and froing with consultants and valuations. And, yeah.
Yes, because in the 2008 crash, when that happened, and it had just been revalued and everything, and the rates, and ended up houses that were selling for, say, 150 plus, were selling for $40,000 and $50,000. People were just buying, but then when the leaseholders group got together, because I say, for example, my place at the time, they'd taken the lease from $800 a year, which is ridiculously cheap, up to $3,800. But once we had our group going, they brought it back to $2,800, which is still a good increase, but it's still affordable. And the other thing I try to point out to people, say I'm paying $2,800 on a lease, for example, it gets gone up more than that, but then if I'm paying another $2,000 on rates, that's $4,800, so okay, let's look, that's $100 a week. You can't rent a house here for that, if you can find one to rent at all. So my view when I came here was to buy a leasehold. I had no issue with buying a leasehold because I had somewhere to stay. It was cheaper than trying to find somewhere to rent, and you could still make a capital gain on if you could wait the time out. So it's a bit of a awkward situation for the leaseholders, but these last valuations were really high.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to support what Andrew has suggested there and have a letter going, just very broadly outlining the board's concerns and suggesting that we had that meeting. Yeah, so I don't know how you want to word that, Kawhia, but I'm sure you'll come up with some appropriate words for that or something. Yeah.
I think that, through you, Chair, I think that letter should go to all the leaseholders and sort of try and position the board in the middle, not looking like you're particularly taking the side of either one.
No, good point.
Facilitator more than an advocate of one side or the other.
Just to say, especially if we're heading to tight financial times, you know, could have a big impact. I sort of feel I'm noticing it already with the price of fuel and cost of living, that we aren't getting as many visitors now as what we were before. I'm sure the cafe's noticing at the shop.
Yeah, you're quite right.
Okay, well, can I move a motion that we accept Andrew's recommendation? And
Yeah, I'll second it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
There was another one, Chairman, sorry, on page 4. I just wondered in terms of the supporting of the limb of Te Papa o Kawhia, have we actually, what applications have actually been made at this stage for funding to do that work? Has there been anything done through council or through Waikato Tainui or?
Te Papa o Kawhia.
The Papa Karu
Yeah.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I approached Waikato Tainui, and there is funding available. So where that is at presently is Waikato Tainui have met with the Runanganui o Ngāti Kairo,
Yes.
and that's where that is at the moment. And I think the Chair did mention that at the last...
No, it was said at the last meeting, you guys weren't here, that we said that you were inquiring.
So that's where that is at.
Okay.
I have been talking with Waikato Tainui, so discussions are in progress, but that's as far as I know.
No, thank you.
Might be nice to just see a bit of progress on that, I guess, but yes, no, I understand there's a process to go through. So,
Yes,
yep.
there are processes.
Yep.
Do we know sort of how the tree's going there with that branch? It's sort of healing all up and everything seems to be...
Well, I think the temporary support is working at the moment, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, top of page 5, the name of the hotel is actually Sands of Kawhia, not Kawhia Sands. Can we correct the minutes on that, Kawhia, please? Thank you. Top of page 6. There is actually, and Mr. Chairman, I'm pretty sure that the board's received this, but there was a schedule that was produced by Andreas when he was here of the footpath program, and there was, the board previously had actually prioritised where they believed the work needed to happen, and I think probably before anything happens here, I think that schedule needs to come back to the board just to make sure that you're still happy with the priorities there. I think they were looking at Kawhia Street at one stage, and around Moki Street, around that area there where there's quite a lot of high pedestrian traffic in the summer months. But it would be useful to get that schedule back, just for you guys to have a look at and see whether you're still happy with the priorities in there.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, just on that point, do you want me to search that out and circulate it?
I've already circulated it to the board.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah, Andrea sent it to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I can resend it if the board wants it. Yep. And the fire hydrants, Jeff, down here, it talks about. Through the chair. We had a discussion with the Kawhia fire chief, and he felt there's no need for it. They can access plenty of water tanks at our town, just by hopping over the fence and grabbing one of the neighbours. Okay. So you don't need a hydrant there? No. Good.
So, sorry, just to interrupt again on that matter. So, through you, Mr. Chair, we've just received a document from FENS New Zealand. It's about wildfire in rural areas, and there's a raft of recommendations in there for homeowners who are connected to a water supply, and what steps they can take to make their water supply tanks available for firefighting purposes to facilitate FENS in an emergency. So we're going to try and incorporate some of that information in new builds when people are building in rural areas, and obviously Aotea. And the upstairs in Aotea estates, that's one of their covenanted requirements for their builds, but not so down where you are, Jeff. Yeah, thank you.
And the only other item I had, Mr. Chairman, was the very last item, rates rebate. I just wondered, that's a very good initiative for that to happen out here, but I wondered whether we could tie that and make a day of it and include other presentations, like from Civil Defence. I know Waipa Networks is quite interested in coming out and giving us an expo, an energy expo. There's a whole lot of other things that could happen. Community policing, we could make a big day of it and have it in the hall here. So it's just a thought for the staff to have a think about.
Okay. Yeah, the staff used to just come out for a day, two of them, I think sometimes even one, come out and just assist people with the rates rebate.
Yep.
It's, I think personally we keep that separate from any other.
Yeah, well, it's personal to people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
But still maybe have a day, like you say, for the others guys come out and give these presentations, which can be.
Oh, that's good. I'll move the adoption of those minutes.
Oh, sorry, did you want to say?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The Kawhia Community Hall.
Yes.
I did say my conflicts of interest, but can I just talk? I can talk on that, okay.
Yes.
After the last meeting, I did approach the Secretary to attend the meeting today, because there has been quite a few queries and partai to do with the hall. But the Secretary is not here to answer any queries. So moving forward, because this is it is an issue within the community, and I know at the last meeting there were quite a few issues, and also out of the meeting I get a lot of phone calls as well. Moving forward, I'm just thinking of a solution. If the next step would be to contact the full committee to actually have if the council can have a hui with the Secretary Chairman, perhaps.
Okay, well the two issues two issues came up about it actually at our meeting last time, and one was that someone hired it for the night and the heaters weren't working, and the other one was someone was complaining that they had to pay $60 for the hire of the hall. That was the two issues that were.
I've had other issues as well. Yeah. There's just been a few issues, but I think if there was a meeting, just to have a one-on-one perhaps, just to get some answers and to move forward. I am on the committee, but there does need to a meeting does need to happen.
Do we feel we're open it to the public or just with us?
I think it'd be a good start with the council to the committee.
So that's first.
A starting point.
I'm not sure if you're aware, Jeff, but the the hall committee is its own entity in a way. They get funding direct from the council. They don't come through us at all. So we have really no powers over the hall.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, it seems that part of this problem has come from the fact that we no longer have the sports club, which was inclined to make itself available for particularly for the very sort of community-orientated things like exercise groups and so forth. And the sports club tended to make itself available for a Kawhia, and of course the hall committee is a little different. It has a set rate for hire, and that became, in the views of those organisations, perhaps reasonably, too exorbitant for them. So, you know, with nowhere else to go, they're saying, well, what can we do? You know, the yoga group and the exercise group, they're relatively small in numbers. They just need a bit of space. They were getting it at a very reasonable rate in the sports club. The hall committee obviously is looking on a more commercial basis, because after all the sports club was there as a sports club, and if their premises were available they didn't mind letting them out and getting a small return. But this hall is a much more commercial situation, and if it's let out they expect to get a return that reflects what's here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's just that it's been a month since our last meeting to now, and you know, the issues, I don't want it to be another month until the next meeting, so I was just thinking like, because there is some urgency of community groups that are wanting to use the hall, so I'm just thinking like if we could have something that happens pretty soon.
So is the concern basically the cost of the harge?
The cost and the use and availability, yeah.
Use and availability.
And like the issue was last time was the heating. So you know there's all those, but
there seems to be no reason why the board could not suggest to the hall committee that they take a slightly more flexible view, given that the alternatives have reduced. After all, a rental at half the commercial value is perhaps a better return than having it sit empty all the time.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, but just to update the board members that the Hall Society is actually an incorporated society, and membership is available to you as members of that community. So there's another avenue that you could actually influence the direction of the Hall Society by being engaged in that committee. So Hinga is a member, but she is but one member. Yeah, so it's just structured like any incorporated society. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the chief executive would like to.
Through you, I think probably as the approach has been made, as was resolved at the last meeting, and the invite was put out, and which hasn't obviously materialised, then probably the next step is for us as staff to actually invite and have a meeting with the whole committee. And my first, I guess my first objective there would be to seek to understand what is going on, like in terms of the financial. I don't believe that community halls should be run on a commercial basis. I think they should be covering the costs, and obviously they will have costs, and they'll want to put aside money for rainy day kind of bigger repairs and maintenance. But the whole premise of community halls is so that they're accessible to the community. Now that may be through a grants system. So the hall has its fees and charges. Community groups can only afford to pay a certain amount, but we have a community grants fund. So maybe those groups apply to the community grants fund. So the hall can still get its revenue and get its fees and charges, but the groups are able to use it because they're kind of funded to do that. So I think just matching the two together, understanding what the hall committees kind of how they're operating, and then putting in place some support for those groups to be able to access it is probably the approach that I'd like to take to start with. But maybe it's a meeting that we,
I think that's probably the right answer. The difficulty from the hall committee's point of view, I'm sure, is that making the decision on, you know, who's supposed to pay the full rate and who's got a discount and how big is the discount and why do they get
No,
those?
so it's not a discount, so they have the fees and charges set. So if you're the line dancing group, you pay $60. If you're the yoga group, you pay $60. But those groups are eligible to apply for funding to council's funds, you know, our community
To
grant
offset
fund,
the cost.
for their projects. So for the yoga class, facility hire. So we're still keeping the integrity of the fees and charges, but those groups are helped. But first I'd like to check whether the fees and charges are reasonable as well. So, you know, they may be, and there's reason for that, or they may be on the high side, and we need to understand that as well.
And if we've got groups that are eligible for grants, then I think the whole committee needs to know what sort of groups are maybe eligible and how they go about getting a grant.
And we can help with that as well.
Yeah, but them getting the grant is not to do with the whole committee. They get the grant and they come and
Yeah, but
sort of thing.
the whole committee needs to be able to say to them, look, you can probably get a grant and go through this process.
Okay. Just one other thing I think we may need following up, just with my talking with Ellen and Sandra, is the council gives the whole committee so much a year?
Yes, we need to understand that as well.
So
Is
there's
that fallen behind, or is that?
Well, no, I think there's a number of elements of the process that need probably a bit of sunlight on them, to be, I think, a good way of putting it. Yeah.
That's nicely put, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just under the impression that they sort of had fallen behind in receiving the money.
I believe that's
quite
been caught up or is underway to be caught up.
Yeah.
Well, we're supposed to get an annual
there's an
report
annual
from them, and I don't think we've seen that for some time, have we?
No, and I don't think it's been reviewed either, so there's a number of elements to this that need looking at.
Well, they've certainly completed their annual accounts.
So it sounds like there is a little bit of business that we could conduct with the money. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to support that recommendation.
Tony's recommendation?
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll second that. Right. Thank you. So we're moving on to our next page. Oh, there we go. Chairman's verbal report.
Reference to conduct for the minutes.
Oh, was it so? Oh, yes, we someone like to move that we accept the minutes?
Yep, I have it.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
You're right. Okay. Since this is our last meeting of our term, I would first like to thank my board members for all they do and have done, and the council staff that have done so much for us. Thank you. Wow, what a time we've had with global pandemic and lockdowns, to rapidly rising inflation impacting food, fuel and mortgage prices. It is indeed changing times we are living in. I also must put a big thank you up there to our whānau Ora and Marae reps like Shami Whiriora and her crew, Kathy Holland and her crew, the Māori Women's Welfare Group, Dr. John Burton and his staff. Thank you for all the food parcels, especially for the elderly, and thank you for doing a great job in keeping us all safe. And I'd like to thank anybody else I didn't mention there that was involved in all that stuff. Since there were no other candidates, we all get another 3 years to help our community, and I, for one, will be standing up and applying myself to a role in a more active way that I feel I did not apply myself as best I could this last triennium, being busy with, overwhelmed by my house. A big part in that I will be playing in the community is being Vice President and Project Manager for the Kawhia Sports Club rebuild. And now, in my opinion, after being on the board for the previous 2 trienniums, I have in this past 3 years seen what I feel is a small loss of our democratic process in Kawhia. We are elected by a majority, and I think the democratic process is that we are elected to govern with the majority support and to make decisions for this majority. So there were a few disappointments for me in my term as chair of the board. At a community board conference I attended after the previous election, they stressed to us that we as a community board were the voice of our community. So for me, it was unexpected that our delegation powers over the Kawhia community property were removed, and that our historic building, as the old post office, was altered, even though it's not a registered historic building. It was still a historic building in Kawhia that many people have an affiliation to. The big one for me in the democratic process, I feel, was the long-term plan consultation. It was pretty much non-existent with the batch owners, who account for a high percentage of our ratepayer base. The promotion of a reticulated sewage system and the associated cost were not wanted by the bulk of the community because of the cost, but was still enacted by council. Democracy out the door. However, we now have a new year, a new term, and will need to apply myself in a more upfront manner to protect our democratic rights. Thank you.
Very good. I'll move the adoption of your report, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, now we move into our board member verbal updates. So,
We've got one
One more item.
Kawhia wastewater update.
oh, is that coming on Tuesday? Chairman's verbal report. I thought it was coming on.
Right after that, that's the minutes from the last
Oh,
meeting.
yes, that's from last
Yep.
month. Wrong page, but yeah.
Um,
No board open agenda? No?
I put it in the wrong place.
No, it's okay. So we have no report next.
This one.
Okay. Right. So, hang on a second.
Do you like another drink?
Oh, yes, thank you. That's fine for me, thank you.
No, good, thanks.
All right, so it's item 79, Kawhia Wastewater Needs Assessment Project Update, which I'd like to call on Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on behalf of the Chief Advisor, I've said I'll present this report today. I'd like to, you're aware of the ongoing wastewater needs assessment that's been underway in Kawhia, dating back to the end of last summer when the consultants went round and did site visits to inspect septic tanks. What's followed on from that has been water sampling from the stormwater outlets, and I suppose I'll just draw your attention to the project program there on the little table on 3.7, and it shows that those tests haven't been completed and that the program is ongoing. To give us the idea is that we're going to have a complete seasonal set of samples to show that the flow of water through these systems right through the year, to take account of dry periods, wet periods, periods like obviously over Christmas when there's high occupancy in the town, to give us a full picture of what's happening with the groundwater. So you'll see that items 2 and 3, they are progressing with the groundwater testing. So yeah, happy to take any questions about that.
So what's, we've got October 22, is it more testing?
Yeah, so that'll be the final round of testing this month, I think was the plan.
Mr. Chairman, this item was discussed at the last council meeting, and there were a couple of points raised, one of which was, I think it was important that the testing of the groundwater and the runoff actually covered a full 12 months, so that we actually got a true picture over the summer months when the batch owners were here and the visitors were here, and that's when the most of the strain is put on those facilities. And the other one was, and it's a point that you've made before, Mr. Chairman, about how we consult with our absentee owners, and I think that's an issue that still needs to be addressed. So,
Okay, I also think there's another bigger issue myself here. And I brought it up before. It's simply the amount of sleep outs, and that, you know, someplace like for me at my house that I'm doing now, if I want to put another bedroom on, I've got to put a whole new septic system in. But I can put 3 or 4 sleep outs, which are other bedrooms really, and have no necessity or order to have to upgrade my septic. So, you know, I think when you're checking the groundwaters and that, saying about septic tanks, how much of that is coming from these sleep outs and that people are illegally putting in. I think it's illegally putting in. And Andrew did make a comment once before when we had a meeting that you couldn't just go on people's property and ask them about it. But aren't we doing just the same thing here with the septic tanks? Going on to people's property and checking it?
Through the chair, I mean, acknowledge the issue of portable sleeping areas and rooms. It's not a problem that Kawhia is experiencing alone. It has been, I talk to my colleagues in other councils, and it is nationwide, and it is just, I suppose, everyone clamours for cheap housing and affordable housing. Well, that's what cheap housing and affordable housing looks like.
Okay, but what I'm meaning is, I'll give you an example. As you drive into town, you drive into Kawhia, just past Dr. John's on the right-hand side as you're driving in, section it, and the guy's put a caravan there, and he's started building it. What's his toilet system?
No,
do we check that? Is there no requirement there to see what they're doing? Because surely if they haven't got a proper septic or just dug a long job or something, it's going to be seeping into the...
I suppose I would, Mr. Chair, refer to a conversation I had with Councillor Jeffries at the council meeting, and that we could go down there with a very heavy regulatory hand, but are we going to create an outcome for those people that is worse than the situation in which they're currently living? So I suppose you have to be mindful of the overall good of the people in your community. I mean, I wouldn't want council to be an agent where we cast people from a poor living situation into a bad living situation. And that is the reality of what we're faced with. These people generally have no other option. And they will go from there and they will create overcrowding in another house, or they will go to live in an even less substandard housing situation. So I think, yeah, it's a nationwide problem. Everyone acknowledges there isn't enough housing in New Zealand.
Mind you, if you follow along that line, that way of thinking, I think, then, okay, I've spent all my money tidying my house up, I'm just about run out. I've got to go back to other jobs before I finish it, but okay, because I'm poor now, and I've got things, so I can build my other bedroom on without having to update my septic tank.
I suppose the difference between people in the situation that you highlighted beside Dr. John's and a person that owns a house where they have done all and everything correctly and it is compliant is that they have the certainty and the security of a compliant property, and over time they will gain the value from that security and that certainty that they have signed up to, whereas that person down there living in his container, sure he's there and he's getting by, but he lives with the uncertainty and the lack of security that his situation provides, and he could, in effect, I know those people living on that land, they may be part owners, but they're not owners. Their fellow owners could turn up tomorrow and kick them off. So, you know, being compliant brings with it a security and a value into the future that other people don't enjoy. So I really can't make any more comment about it.
Through you, Chair. So we're not about to go and do some of the things that you're suggesting. If the board want to completely back us and make it publicly known, front page of the paper, that that's the direction that you want us to take, then that's the direction that we can take to council as a recommendation to proceed. But we're not going to get direction from the government body and then you will run for cover when people start banging on the door saying, I've got nowhere to live and I'm moving into Pretty Reserve. So I think we've got to just balance things out a little bit here around what Andrew's talking about, that we have a housing crisis.
Okay, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I remember bringing up this issue, like I did comment, because we've spoken about this before, and I did comment very similar to what Andrew has said, is that a lot of people do not have finances to actually live in a house. So to me, if they got some people can only afford a container or a sleep out or whatever, that's more than some people that are living in a car. Yeah. Or even some people that are living in cars, it's more than a car, then they've got nothing. So I do see that, but you know, like for myself, and you know, I don't want to be judging. I don't judge people for what they have is what they have, and I wouldn't want to go down that track and
yeah, I don't see it as being a judging thing. I see it more as being a health issue. You know, we're investigating sewage tanks, septic tanks leaking. but we're not investigating all these other people that haven't got a septic tank.
Speaking, I suppose, Mr. Chair, specifically to the matter of septic tanks, if the person loads up a septic tank with extra bathrooms and bedrooms in this place to the place that the system fails, it discharges and creates a health nuisance, we will step in and take action against that person. We won't let an unhealthy situation affect other members of the community. But up to that point, where there's no obvious failure or effect or nuisance to neighbouring properties, we probably will not take any steps to intervene in the matter.
I suppose what I'm getting at more in a way really is, okay, we're doing this investigation and you're checking out the groundwater. But, you know, how much, and the idea there's checking out the groundwater to see the condition of the tanks. But how much of what's going into the groundwater isn't coming from a tank? It's coming from people that have put the caravan there and put a long drop in, or put something like that, or that's more than.
I think there's, sorry to interrupt, I think there's two issues here. There's the compliance issue that I think you're talking about, Mr. Chairman, that perhaps there should be one rule that applies to everybody, but also and I think the social housing aspect of things, which is a far wider debate that I think we need to go down today, because that's a separate issue again. But the social housing thing nationally is shocking. It really is, and I don't know how many of you saw 2 or 3 weeks ago the documentary on Rotorua and what's happening in Rotorua. Oh, it's terrible. So, I mean, I don't want to go down that track today because that's a whole different, discussion. But I do understand where you're coming from, Mr. Chairman. But at the same time, I do feel that the point that's been made is, are we cracking a walnut with a sledgehammer just to make a point? Okay.
But basically, I'm asking because I get people asking me, so I've got to come here and ask. As well, Okay. I will. I'll move that we. You finished, Andrew?
Yes,
I'll move that we accept Andrew's report. Thank you.
Go and get the name.
And now we move into board members' verbal updates. So we'll go clockwise around. I'll start with you first, please, Kit.
Oh, thank you. Not a lot to report from a council perspective, but has been a busy time, as you probably appreciate, with elections this year. But from a council perspective, on the 6th of September we had the tour to Kawhia, which was, there was some staff came out that day, and I just wanted to acknowledge Jeff and his team at Aotea for organising the four-wheel vehicles that took us out to the heads, and we had a bit of an archaeological discussion on soil structures and things, which was very interesting. And then to Kevin Adams for his tour of the waterworks, which they found really interesting. And then to Tom Moki over at the hotel there, we had arranged to go and see Tom, and we arrived there and he'd put on a lunch and everything for us. So, so the hospitality was just excellent. But I think probably, and to Nadia too for organising it all. But I think probably it was generally agreed that it was too short. The day was too short. We didn't have an opportunity to do a whole lot of things that perhaps we could have, like the museum, the art gallery, the whole shooting box. So whether there's an opportunity to do it again, perhaps once the new council is in and we have a tour, bring the whole council out would actually be a good idea. Bring them out and show them around the place. So that was a good day out. 20th September was the District Council meeting, normal monthly meeting, and that was that would have been that was the last of the triennial meetings for the council. So and we farewelled Councillor Robin Kloss and Councillor Brian Ferguson, who neither of whom are standing again, and there were some tributes paid to both of them, which were very nice. On the 22nd, some of the councillors met with the Associate Minister for Local Government and Transport, Kieran McAnulty, and that was in Otorohanga. and as you can imagine, the main topic of conversation was around Three Waters. But there were also representatives there from the Department of Internal Affairs and from Waka Kotahi, so there was some other discussion held, particularly around the state of the roads, litter around roading, just general roading conditions, and but mainly around the Three Waters and the transition to that come July 2024. There was a host of questions which I won't bore you with today. Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, how much I've enjoyed my association with the board over the last period of time. It's been a pleasure to be involved with you all, and I really do enjoy being part of the team, if you like. So I just want to thank you and thank the other members too for your hospitality in that respect, and just to wish you all the very best of luck for the next 3 years. There's some interesting challenges coming up, and I think the biggest one for you guys sort of almost immediately would be the review of the Kawhia Aotea Town Concept Plan, which is about to kickstart, and that in itself is going to be a real interesting exercise. The last time Kawhia had a plan that was reviewed was back in 2008, so it's been 14 years since you last had an opportunity to have some input into how you think the town should be developed. So obviously we'll be involved with that too, but from a board's perspective, I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of work for you guys to get your teeth into, so I wish you luck with that as well. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Jeff.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on the Aotea Kawhia tour. It was a great day, and it was a good crew that came out from ODC, and hopefully they appreciated the rough and ready tour that we put together.
Oh, no,
loved it. Yeah. There's a lot of history in the two harbours. I don't think we gave them enough time in the Kawhia harbour either. I'd like to see both tours, and we could really make it a good day to spread the word about both harbours. Our seawall surveys have been progressing quite nicely, so we've seen a lot of the engineers and bits and pieces down there doing their thing. And Mark Lewis is keeping us up to date with what's happening there. We're comfortable with the process that's going on there, and everyone's just cracking on. The Aotea Ratepayer Society have had their first committee meeting after their AGM, and not too much change. A couple of additions to the committee membership there. Member of the President's Day joint meeting, so that's just ticking along okay. With the cancellation of the Kawhia Kai Festival, Aotea was running a market day in conjunction. Our first one was in 2020, and we had it the day after the Kawhia Kai Festival. It didn't happen last year because of the Rona, the COVID, but we even, despite the fact that the Kawhia Kai Festival has been cancelled, and the Aotea's was carried on with the Aotea Market Day. So that will be happening on Sunday, the 5th of February. Stall spots are limited, and Aotea residents will have preference, but if anyone else wants to come along and put their hand up for a site there, entry is free. And hopefully we can give something to that Waitangi weekend for visitors to Kawhia who haven't heard too much about the Kawhia Kai Festival there. Very good. And just once again, a big ups to Money Life that are doing the logging at Aotea in Morrison's Forest. It's chalk and cheese, the two logging operations that were there. Thursday, a lot of loggers that came in there and around the carpet and whatever. To these guys, it's chalk and cheese, the traffic management, the community consultation. I can't imagine how many thousands a day it's costing them to position that traffic management on the corner of Aotea Road into the state highway. The first logging truck leaves Aotea at 4:15 in the morning, and they have traffic management on site there, and they come from Matamata. So if that, I would like to be recorded that there's a huge appreciation from the Aotea community on the way that operation is being run.
Oh, that's good.
And and I'd just like to say for my short time on the community board after taking over from George Fletcher, it's been a pleasure. It really has. You're a good crew, right? I've a lot of faith in getting Aotea and Kawhia closer together, that's for sure. You know? I wouldn't have stood again if I didn't believe in what we're all trying to achieve here. So thank you, and for the ODC members that are supporting us, thank you very much. It really is, from my heart, it's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to another 3 years. There's a lot of work to do in the next 3 years between Kawhia and Aotea with that district plan that's coming up, town plan. And we've got an opportunity for three solid years together to really put our, you describe it as ODC jewels too hard. They certainly are. They certainly are. And we've got an opportunity to clear some of our issues up with some of the social issues that we've got around here with the crop and the other bits and pieces. But that'll change, it'll fix. Okay? But thank you. Appreciate your help and support.
Oh, cheers, Jeff. Thank you. I'll go this way and I'll come back to you guys at the end if it's okay. Hang on.
Tēnā tātou katoa. First of all, I want to say congratulations to Mani Poto. The signing was yesterday down at Parliament, and I know Max and Tanya were down there, and I was listening to it live streamed, and Mani Poto FM was live streaming it, so it was awesome, and congratulations. Kia rātou. Tuarua. I've got a bit of a list here, but I'm just picking up on the tour in Kawhia and Aotea. When I did get the pānui, I just felt it was lacking a Māori input. There's a lot of history in here, and we could have done a hikoi from Aomiti right down to the waka. And I know there's whānau over in Aotea that could do a kōrero over there too. So, and it would be ideal to do that first before we do the hikoi to others. That's just my whakaaro, my thoughts. When I saw that, I just said, okay, we're rich in Māori history here, and the narrative needs to be told. And I think that would be a good start in the next term, that I can actually help in that area and bringing in people to actually to do the kōrero. So, but awesome that you took the initiative to do that. But yeah, that was lacking big time. Kia ora. Tua toru,
Just quickly, the initiative was a council initiative, not at our community board
well,
level.
whoever it was, there was no Māori. We can do that next time.
Next time, yeah.
So I'm just putting it on the table now.
Yeah, can I just clarify something? Sorry to interrupt. There was only about 4 hours that day, which included a lunch across the road here, and there was quite a lot of the Māori history given out during that tour by both Jeff and myself. Admittedly, not officially in that sense, but it wasn't completely devoid of giving out some history of the area. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Kit. I'm just saying that we do hikoi here a lot with groups that are coming in, and the hikoi is from Aomiti, telling the narrative, and we're walking down, listening to the kōrero along the track. There's a lot of kōrero along there, and which is interesting kōrero, especially for us as a community and a council, and all the way down that way. That's part of it, but it's a huge part of the kōrero, and a lot of the kōrero that would be told is take that come up in our hui, and that's to do with the papau karewa, tangata kōrewhiti, all along there. So it is a really important part of the journey.
Yeah. Lots of people don't know about the caves that used to belong.
That's right, there's a lot. So to me, let's start, you have to go back to go forward. So to go back, we need to hear our history to go forward. So I just wanted to say that. Ka pai.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is that I was asked to, we had a Māori candidates evening at Omairo Marae at Whatawhata, and I was asked to be part of the panel there, and that was, a few weeks ago. So that was an enjoyable evening when all the candidates came in, and there was a lot of new candidates and first timers.
It's for the Māori ward.
Yes. Oh no, any Māori candidate, community board, councillors, whatever. So there's a group that are in support, and just to help the young ones that are coming through, just to stand up and just to kōrero, just to project their voice. So it was a helping other Māori candidates to be confident in standing up. But this is not just for Māori wars, this is for any Māori candidate standing on anywhere. So that was an enjoyable evening, and that was live streamed too. So that was, so that's good. So that was at Omairo Marae. Just going down here. So we will be holding an event called Kickback Kawhia event. Our Te Kareto Trust managed to get some, our Kawhia Māori Women's Welfare League branch secured some funding through council through the creative arts, and we've been waiting for time to hold an event here like we did for the post-COVID one that we did in the street here.
Yeah, that was
so we're looking at holding another one, and at this time, tentative date is the 29th of October, but once I get a confirmation on the artists that are coming in, I will send a pānui out.
it's the week after Labour weekend.
The weekend after Labour weekend, because there's quite a bit happening on Labour weekend here. But so we're just trying to get all our artists together. So that'll be called Kickback Kawhia. Also, following up on that, we still have our Kickback Kawhia show every Friday on Tainui FM, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that's Fly Girl Hinga and DJ Lloyd on air. So,
was it 6 till 9?
6 to 8 p.m. every Friday. Tainui Live 95.4 FM, or otherwise you can download the Whare Kōrero app and you can listen to any of the iwi stations. So tonight as well. Cool. So it's a fun time, and we talk about kawhia, different things that happen in kawhia, and we play old school music. Ka pai? So that's
just on that, at one stage you were going to or running a little radio station thing from here.
We've already done that.
Are you looking at maybe bring that back?
Maybe in the future. But at the moment, Tainui Live, we've got the facility to do that through Tainui Live. So we set up in our kitchen. We've got our mics and our laptops and everything set up, so we can do it live from our home. Which is fine. Tainui Live is our local iwi station, and with our Waikato Tainui and part of the communications team, Pahi team. So Tainui Live is based down in Victoria Street. So tune on in, but the app is really good, Whare Kōrero app, because you can listen to any of the iwi stations. So we've been going for quite a while now, every Friday. Okay, next one is, you did mention about the Kawhia Kai Festival. I was part of the first 10 years. So myself and Lou and Lloyd, we actually started that back in 2004, correctly. Now, when I heard that the Kawhia Kai Festival wasn't going ahead, I go ding ding, so watch the space. I would be keen to pick it up. There's a group of us already talking that we would like to bring back Kawhia Kai Fest.
Excellent.
But I will keep in touch with everybody. But it won't be happening to 2023. But we probably would look at 2024. So keen to do something in that space.
Okay.
Ka pai? Photo frame. So with the photo frame, still working on the photo frame. Work in progress. I'm just waiting for a quote from my contact in Hamilton. So once that's done, we will start the photo frame. So that's an awesome kaupapa, exciting kaupapa that I'm working on, the photo frame. So just an update there. It is still happening. So yeah, it will happen.
Excellent.
Also, I've got a part-time, but I'll leave that for last. Now, I have enjoyed my last 3 years on the community board also. I've learnt a lot, and yes, it's been an interesting space to be in. I'm still keen to, when I first came onto the community board, I mentioned about our storyboards, our narratives, our stories being told. I'm still keen to work on that project as well. That's something that I feel very passionate about. So getting our narratives happening within and having those storyboards along the way. So I'll bring that up again in our future hui. And yeah, that's the kind of space I really enjoy being in, is our narratives, our stories, and also being creative in a creative space within our community as well. I've got one question on the floor, is that there's a wahine here that's local, and she wants to be running exercise classes. Now, Nin is her name, and she's got a class happening here on Sunday, out here in the Ormiti Park, and she's got quite a lot coming in, and she's wanting to tap into the power box there.
Yeah, did you ask Ross?
Now, no, she hasn't heard from Ross, and she's left messages, but I'm just asking, does anybody know about the green power box? How can that be accessed?
Did Sana? Did anyone else? Did you ask Sana?
No, only
Ross.
Ross.
Okay. I'm not
I
sure.
used to have a key for that, but I'll have to go back and just have a look. But if I have, I'm pretty sure the council staff would have one anyway.
That's what I'm thinking of Sana.
Yeah.
I thought Ross Dockery had one for when he was having the things there, but if he
So
hasn't
she's
replied.
got a class here on Sunday. I know the Kawhia Kai Festival actually worked in with Waipa Power to put that there.
Yes.
Because why? It's because we needed three-phase power for the entertainment.
Yep.
But since then, I don't know where the key is. So if you've got a key kit, that would be really helpful.
I'm not sure whether I still have it. I'll have a look, and
Okay.
if I can find it, I'll get hold of you.
Yes, please. Because Nin is an energy bunny, and she's got lots of energy. So I'm grabbing that energy because it's good for Kawhia community, and all she's asking for is power. Ka pai? But apart from that, kia ora, yes, I do look forward to the next the 3 years being on the community board. An interesting space. Nō reira, tēnā tātou.
Right, I'd just like to say before I move on to Ken, I've thoroughly enjoyed you being on the board here. Your vibrancy and your enthusiasm is really refreshing. You really bring it to us, and I love it. So thank you very much.
Kia ora, Dave.
All right, Ken, please.
Okay, just an observation that I make as I cruise through town occasionally. It's still very, very quiet. I often go past the Rusty and there's nobody there. Today Jeff was there when I went past, and he was the only one. I note that the roast house originally opened till 7 p.m. It gradually came back to 6 p.m. and somebody called in there to pick up a roast dinner last night on the way back from the golf club, and at 10 to 5 they were already closed.
Yeah, they've closed the dairy and wet white as well.
It's an indication of the difficulty we're having in the town, that businesses can't see any point in staying open longer, or even as long as they originally intended to. So that's just an observation about how the town is being affected by largely the increased cost of living and so forth. And I'm finding now that I'm getting more and more demands on my time because of my background. It had nothing to do with the community board, but every incorporated society in the country will have to, as from next year, lodge a new
charter?
It's a format, isn't it, for the accounts? Is that what you're thinking?
It's this is a problem I have. I lose things. They're going to refile they're going to have to refile with the Incorporated Societies Act. And because of my background, I'm getting requests for assistance in this area. Which brings me to the point I'm building up to. I came to Kawhia to retire. Doesn't seem to be happening. And I feel that it's time for me to let you know this will be my last term on the community board. Retirement's got to take place, and as I say, I expect to be rather busy. Constitutions, the word I was looking for, they all have to refile their constitutions, no matter what. There are changes that they must incorporate, that none of them have been because they didn't have it in the law in the first place, and they've changed the law. For example, one of the requirements was that a chartered institute, an incorporated society had to distribute their funds that they dissolved to several organisations. Now they have to specify which particular organisation they go to. So even though nothing else may change, that one will, but there are other changes that are coming in as well. And I keep getting that, and of course, sports club burning down, I keep getting pressure from people there, please help us, what can we do about this, what should we do about that? I came here to retire. So I'm definitely not going to stand at the end of this term. I just thought, nothing like giving you plenty of warning.
Thank you, Ken. I came here to spend my days fishing. Okay, thank you, Ken. Now, anything you'd like to add in?
Just that we introduced a proposal for a revision of our dangerous building policy, so I'll put it on the next agenda as a FYI item. The policy goes out for public consultation during the month of November after the election. So.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it'll be too late for the next agenda. Their first ordinary meeting.
Oh, that's
I can't remember.
Oh, sorry, that's right.
But yeah, sorry, you might have to circulate it to them separately.
Yeah, I will do.
I think will be, I can't find it, sorry, but...
It'll be the end of November, won't it? Yes.
All right.
Yeah, first meeting 8th of December.
What is there? I'll go with you before I have my little things. Is there anything you want to add, Tony? Max? All right, okay. I'll just start off with a little discussion that we sort of said we were going to have before about the boat ramp. Wasn't talking about the boat ramp. PAR has objected before. They have complained about the parking, but then they've also gone down at the same time they complained last time and asked the owners to shut the parking down. So you're complaining about people parking on the road, but you go down to try and shut it down. And even her statement that she'd been talking to the owners and they want it closed or whatever, that she said earlier, that's untrue. I work with one of the owners and I socialise with the other, and they're quite happy with the situation how it is. I think it's more of a personal thing that, the impression I got last time was they think there's too many boats and they're taking too many fish and we should somehow try and stop them. To me, my personal opinion is the boat ramp is the biggest economic indicator and input in this town. We did have one tourism lady say that, if you remember, Kit, at a meeting we talked about it, and she said, yeah, those people with big boats generally have money to spend. Yep. So, you know, we've got it's a bit of a hard one to keep everyone happy on that subject. And
I think one of the biggest issues, Mr. Chairman, has been what's seen as a potential safety issue with vehicles or trailers parked on both sides of Kawhia Street, and it's virtually reducing it to a one lane, and kiddies running out from vehicles. Sometimes you don't know whether you're going to stop in time to. I think that was one of the issues, but also I don't know enough about it, but I know that land that's currently used is not council land, it's owned by a family. But what about we have talked about this before, the land behind it?
Yeah, owned by the same family.
On the other side of the drain.
Not on the other side, that's Forbes, isn't it, on the other side?
I'm not too sure. Is it worth trying to get some discussion going to see whether we could open that up?
There's a little bit of it is near-rise.
Sorry?
A little bit of that land is near-rise. Near Tupiki, but near-rise. And then I think beside that, I'm not sure which side, but beside that, next over is Forbes, but it's near-rise and Kings, that land. But I have talked to the girls, the daughters, they're good friends of mine, as well as Rallies. And the older one doesn't really care, and the younger one that would like to do something is living in Aussie, was planning on coming back, but now has got muckles, so that's all up in limbo again. We are still hoping that Zoe McGregor will come to the party and let them or agree to open it back, you know, so a bit beyond.
good.
But even then, you're still gonna get people parking all over the road because just that many people come.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the reality is people come to the community board and say, do something about the parking. There's little we can do except negotiate with the owners. You know, the council doesn't have land that's suitably located for boat parking, boat and trailer parking. It's all very well to come to a community board and say, fix this. How do we fix it?
Make them park over here, but it's not practical.
We simply can't. The best we can ever do is negotiate with the owners of that land and perhaps come to some agreement that it can be used more effectively. But beyond that, I don't see what we can do.
I think the same.
Excuse me, Dave, can I just add to this? Just from the conversation I had outside, the discussion about shifting the boat ramp from Kawhia to out of town to the forestry block, they had a discussion with Mr. Kawhia, who's dropped in. They had a discussion with him, he had a separate boat parking area out of town, building a new boat ramp further out towards the mouth of the harbour and just
All good idea, but they're trying to stop access around that way now. You know.
I suppose it's whether the conversation's been had and whether there's a possibility.
Yeah, that's a good point, Max, because that was raised last night too, and I think what was being suggested was to use Tom French Grove as a boat park, and the boats would be launched off Ocean Beach itself, and it's just
That's
it's not
ridiculous.
going to happen.
That's someone who hasn't got a boat making suggestions.
No,
It's dangerous.
It's ridiculous. You can't.
Verges on the.
So they were getting confusion between the access, which is a separate issue, access to Ocean Beach around the foreshore, and boat parking.
But this is also, we got people who don't own boats making suggestions what the boaties should do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that, that you have to be careful, the balance here. I mean, council always has powers to take a heavier compliance and regulatory stance on these matters, but you might do that to the actual, the people that put the effort in to run these events might just decide it's too hard to come to Kawhia and you end up with no events, I mean, I don't know, there's always a balance here. I know in the discussion we had when this came to a head before COVID that by their own admission, the people in the fishing club said that it takes a lot of effort from their club members to put these events on, and their members were reluctant to undertake those duties because it meant they couldn't participate in the competition itself. So there's, I think that perhaps the groups that put these events on have to recognise that they've grown and more control and management is required, and they've just got to, shoulder up and.
Well, part of what used to happen previously with the different Marae committee at Makatu was they would allow parking in these competitions. They would allow parking, and then they would get a big koha from all the participants at the club, pass that around, click money up, and go like that. But now there's a new committee, and they've just flat out said no parking in here, and then complained about the.
What about if there was a compulsory $25 a competition entry put on the ticket price, and that was just given to the Marae?
No, they wanted 60 a day.
Well, 60 then.
Which people just say, no, well, we won't park, we'll go and park up the road. They'll just park up the road, they won't go and pay $60, $120.
When you're paying $100 for an individual to go out on a charter, $60 between 3 or 4 guys on a boat's probably looking pretty reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah, but you forget, you've got to buy bait, you've got to buy fuel, you've got to have maintenance on your boat, all that, it's not just they get $100, $100 is a cheap walk on, really.
I think the other point that needs to be remembered too is that this isn't happening every weekend.
Yeah.
These are occasions that perhaps happen, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times a year, or,
But like you said, over the Christmas holiday period, it happens every day for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
So Ken made a very good point. It's all very well, them coming and having a go, but none of them have actually come up with any suggestions as to how it can be, dealt with.
Any solutions?
No, there's been no solutions offered. It's just basically you fellas do something about it.
Oh.
And it seems to involve an inflated idea of just how much the community board and the council can actually do.
Well, I mean, we've got
to Putin in and then sort it out for us.
Yeah, we've got a bylaw down there, but I mean, who's gonna want to go and enforce that? And even if you did, and people were getting tickets and moved on, where are they going to move to?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the other one is, it's been a couple of times now, PAR, as a representative of the I suppose, or of our own thing, has done a complaint, but I don't think we've received any complaints actually from all the people who live on the houses going up the road that get parked all over the front of they have had trouble with people parking in their driveways and blocking their driveways, and that I think has been sorted and different things, but really, you know, other people that are affected don't seem to make an issue out of it. It's just this is what happens in Kawhia at these certain times. Anyway,
It's not an easy. It's not
an easy one, is it?
No.
But, I still see it as being a large economic income for the town. Okay, now from there, I'll finish up on that if everyone's all done with that. I just want to talk about the sports club. So we have a meeting here on Sunday morning at 10:30, a members' meeting. Some of our committee were a bit hesitant, but I said I would like to invite the public, and because I'm sure everyone wants to come in and have their input, but we're not really sure on speaking rights for members of the public at the moment, because it is a club, financial member responsible, but personally I feel I'd like to open the floor and get whatever ideas that people have got, or their thoughts. We have had confirmation of our insurance, so if you drive up past here you'll see the building's been demolished, which is great because I was sick of looking at a burnt out building every time I opened the curtains in the morning.
He did a very good job too.
And he did a really good job. I went down and cleared out any stuff that might have been salvageable, and so I'll probably just put more junk in the tennis shed than what we really wanted. But now part of our meeting on Sunday is we'll probably put some feelers out, because I've suggested we look at a build committee as opposed to just our club committee. The build committee will be held responsible by the club committee, but for me a build committee of tradespeople or professionals is what we need. You know, people chuck their names in the hat for different positions or suggestions, so we're working together. We still have to get a lawyer to go over our details on our insurance and how it's going. Like an example of that is they've told us not to rip the floor up, the concrete floor, leave the concrete floor because we can build back on top of it. This is the insurance, and I'm saying, well, do we have to get an engineer to check it? How do you get an engineer or whatever check like that? And I've also heard some stories about when they were building it, of them using the pooty metal to fill up the floor and all that in the last bits, which is going to make that a bit suspect. So we have to, and they also want to pay us in sort of incremental payments, whereas I'm thinking this is why we need the lawyer, because surely if we're insured for this large amount, shouldn't we have that large amount and have it in the bank so we're getting interest off it, rather than dropping it to us, that thing? But I don't know, as I say, we have to check what our policy is and how it all goes. But
it might be a safeguard from the insurers to make sure that you're actually doing the work.
Yes,
yeah, I think it is.
that would be fine.
But I am hoping that if we get our build committee going, that possibly we'll just have to see how it goes and pricing, because we'll have to put out for tender. But I would like to see it go locally, even if it's a combination of builders or tradespeople, simply because I think, especially if we're heading towards a bit of a recession in the economy, if we can provide work for our local people here and training even while we're doing it, then I could see that as only being a good thing. But, no, thank you. So that's sort of where we're at the moment, and if you can and like to, come to our meeting on Sunday, sitting here at 10:30.
I think it's a very good thing that you're inviting members of the public, Dave, and I think though that probably only the members should be able to vote on anything though, that's the only thing. Well,
part of inviting the public too, we've had inquiries from half a dozen people at least that want to join the club.
Yes.
And so, you know, they're members of the public, so they want to come along, have the bit.
If I could make a point for you, Dave, the meeting itself, even if it's members only, cannot make any decisions as such. They could possibly come up with recommendations, but for them to make a decision, it would have to have been called as a special meeting.
Yes.
which is not. It's been called as an informational meeting. So there's an exchange of information, and by all means members can make some sort of recommendation that's not necessarily binding on the committee.
Well, we're going to have a suggestion box there.
Yeah.
So people can come up with the ideas and everything, and see how many come up with the same idea. There's one, but it's just play it by ear really at the moment. But yeah, we still have to. Well, we're waiting to see. We've just got a new accountant, and we're just waiting now on sorting out the lawyer, and then we'll start looking at plans. And
Can I just ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Has there been any discussion about the footprint and the location and the lease agreement with council on the reserve?
No, I've just got the lease agreement the other day from Graham. Well, last week he'd sent it to my wrong email when I got it. So I'll we're going to have a meeting. We'll probably have a meeting next week, I think, and then I'll share it with the rest of the committee.
Yeah, because I think at the moment the sports club, they lease the entire kind of reserve area, and it's quite big. And
Just where the tennis courts and the club and the tennis shed is, because then Patsy's got the domain, eh? Patsy Scott's got the domain.
There's just been discussions in the past about do they need all that, do you need all that space, or so it's a good time to actually just have a look at all of that.
Well, part of the space too is the car park, from what I understand, is it's not just ours. It's available for like camper vans to come and stay the night. So that's not just on us. I think that's the go. The stone carvers did have an area, and they did get a little bit more area off the council a little while back, but they've disbanded, and I see they've moved their container away at last, just over last week. So the big area, I suppose it's part of that, the tennis courts, and that really is the big grass area at the back, because we're sort of at the moment trying to get the PD guys to come in and just mow the lawns and clean it all up. Which
I think Tanya is making a good point as to whether or not you actually need the area that was used previously, the bowling green, whether you still need that.
Well, I think you must remember it is incorporated as a sports club. Now, if you do away with all the sporting facilities, then its incorporation becomes meaningless, and it would probably be
just another club.
I doubt they'll accept it as an ongoing operation. You can't have a sports club if it's got no sports facilities.
Well, we've had discussions talking about the bowling green, thinking, well, even if we could just have a couple of rows, just so we utilise it, okay, there's a maintenance issue on the rest of it. But the sports club, the bowling club would have been celebrating 75 years next year. So, that's
and that is an aspect, of course. The sports club itself has a long history in the town as an institution that is involved in and promotes sports as such. Started as a bowling club and expanded. The tennis courts went in at some stage, and
that's right,
haven't been here long enough to know.
There you go with the tennis courts, because we had young Natasha there before till her father got a tragedy.
And when I first came to town, there were frequent pool competitions with other organisations. So all of that was involved in sport and the promoting of sport, and that is in the club's constitution. And if they stop doing that, certainly if I was sitting in the Registrar of Incorporated Society's office and it came across my desk that this sports club was no longer doing anything to sports, I'd say, well, deregister it. I think they generally define sports as those things that have a competitive edge to them, or at least can have.
Well, you say, it could be darts,
so darts, pool, all the traditional sports we know about, like rugby, bowls, tennis, all of that. Yoga, you're not specifically competing with other people in the group.
Ken, I used to work with Sport New Zealand when it was called the Hillary Commission, and so I know a lot about this. Do you know that gardening is defined as the number one, probably physical activity, not sport?
Yes.
But yeah, I think you'd probably be able to stretch the, not saying that you shouldn't have the outdoor spaces, the bowls and all the rest of it, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying because of your yoga pose and see if your heart rate goes up.
No, my point there is, the point I'm trying to make is, do they put them in a row and say, okay, let's go and we'll grade you? And that's the difference. You know, most sport involves a competitive edge in some way or another.
Yeah, a winner
or at least can. You know, it's not all necessary to play for that purpose, but most of the things that are recognised as sports, there is that competitive edge to it.
I think the point is that you don't want more than you can manage, and the land isn't going anywhere. If the club expands or takes on a new lease of life over some activity, you can always petition the council to take more land back for an activity that you want to then manage, because I know that any sports surface takes a lot of work to keep it in good.
See, I personally would like to see, so at the moment if you driving up Otorohanga Street and you look down at the club and the roof used to dog leg, sort of like that, I would like to see it actually, with a new plan, turn this way and just be pitched, maybe lean to on that end at over the kitchen dining room, with the idea that if we could fundraise or afford it, whatever, how we go, that we could carry that roof line out over the bowling green, creating a indoor-outdoor area, and maybe we could have covered in sports bowls or whatever in bad weather. Just an idea, it would float around, but you know, try to think about things like that.
Oh no, it's good to have ideas, no worries. Yep.
And the other one was, yeah, when I went up and helped with Ross and cleaning up everything, I managed to salvage probably 75%, even 80% of the bowling balls. The bags were all burnt and charred, but I've got all the balls out, so we'll be looking for other bags if you come across them, just to put the balls in. And out of all the sets, and there would have been probably over 20 sets at least that I saved, I found 2 jacks, and that was it. So we may have to buy. I found all the burnt 8 balls. But okay, that was it for me on the sports club. So just before I finish, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the council, to Andrew, Tanya, Max, and all your staff. Your staff, I've got to say, are the most helpful people. Kawhia, and yeah, generally really easy to get on with, easy to communicate with, and again, very helpful. And big thank you, hugs and kisses to my crew here. To our board. We've all come together to do our best, I think, for what we can for the town, and it's much appreciated by everybody in town, I believe, or almost everybody. You get a few people, but yeah, thank you everybody.
That's good, Dave.
And
can I just ask one more question before you close, David, if you like? Can I just ask, where the humps are, you've got those posts, the reflective posts down here. How long are they going to be? Can we just find out, Andrew, how long they intend to leave those there? Because they
what, sorry?
Well, down where the humps are on the corner,
it goes onto the footpath by the shop.
Posts sticking up out of the...
It's not been finished onto the curb like the other side.
The whole job doesn't look like it's been finished.
Okay,
yeah, can we just...
I'll go and take a photo.
Yeah. But can we also inquire, because a few people have been complaining about it, the people funny how they wanted something to slow the traffic down because it was racing past the pub, so they put those in, they don't like them now.
Yeah.
But what's the chances of pulling the one off this road, because I didn't really see why that was necessary, and taking the one opposite...
So you've got 2 on Kawhia Street, either side of the intersection. You've got 1 on Jervois Street.
Yeah. What's the chance of getting, say, the one on Jervois Street taken out, and the furthest one on Kawhia Street? Okay, so we just have the one's enough to slow the traffic down. I couldn't really see, but there was Andreas insisting this is what you have to do, and because originally I just thought if we had a pedestrian crossing there, it would help slow down for all the kids going over to use the Wi-Fi or people. I know Bill was complaining to me about backing out his driveway, but it's only a little mound that he's going over when he backs out. It's no real issue, you know, I don't believe.
So through you, Mr Chair, which ones will we leave there?
The one on this side. So when you're walking from the shop to the track, you're going across on a...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the one going across to the library.
The one going to the library.
Yeah. I don't know if you agree with that. I thought that was the most logical one, because that's safe, that's all the kids cross, or people going up the hill. And
I could never understand why there was one across Jellicoe Street, because everything going in or out of Jellicoe Street has to slow down for the corner anyway.
Andreas
So,
insisted that that was part of the protocol
Why do we
required
have
at the
that
time.
there slowed down?
So I thought we had to get that put in, but then, okay, well, let's get it removed now and leave the one. Whether
I think
that's legal or...
I could be wrong here, Ken, but I had a feeling that when we first talked about it, we were looking at a raised platform.
I thought it was a platform.
Yeah, it was going to be a raised platform that came up on the three sides and was the same level right across, and then it dropped off. But what we've got is this, this, and this.
No, it was always going to be
the
traffic calming. That's how he called it, traffic calming.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was a platform, and I voted in favour of it, but quite frankly, half the reason I voted in favour of it was I thought, well, if we don't accept this, when are we ever going to get anything? Because it had already been going on for a very long time. And my personal view is that we need one just before the hotel, either side of the road, and I'd prefer to see one out at just near the end of the straight, so that they slow down before they take the corner coming into the garage.
Well, that's been brought up, but my thing is they're slowing down for the corner anyway. And what was happening was they'd come up, slow down for the corner, and then just boot it once they got around the corner. That was the idea, putting the one across here to slow them down in our sort of shopping area or our retail area.
Maybe we should put the other one out near Monty's. Slow them down before they hit the straight.
Well, then they'll just boot it along to the shop from there, you know.
Well, if you go ahead with what Dave's suggesting, you're going to have two spare ones. You've got,
you
put one up Waiwera Street as well then.
They fly along there, man. People fly along there.
When
I was living on
Mr.
Waiwera
Chair,
Street.
doesn't matter where we put it, someone's going to mow.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, I said on.
Yeah, I even had someone tell me the other day saying, you're on the community board, you represent us, I want it gone.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to have ask a partai. So I remember we went for training for the community board. Is that happening again this time round? Okay. So it does.
We had an email, I think, about that.
I haven't. Oh,
Got it. You should have been through you, Chair. You should have been sent an email that's given you all the
dates for different meetings.
Highlights, different coloured highlights on when we'd like you to put in your diary.
Yeah, you kind of sent those out.
Dates for board induction and swearing in.
Okay, I'll have another look. Okay, kia ora. And I'll have another look through my emails. And I see our next hui is on the 28th of October, which is the Friday. I just need to put my apologies in. That day I'll be busy at Otorohanga. It's the commemoration date. It's the 28th of October. So I'll be at Otorohanga that day.
Is there a meeting on the 28th of October?
It's the LGNZ.
Oh, that's the induction.
Oh, is that the induction?
Yeah, so you've got no more formal board meetings because we can't start your board meetings until you're all sworn in.
Oh, okay.
You have to all be sworn in, and then we start your board meetings again. So your first board meeting is not from December.
Okay, so the 28th is induction.
Induction at Winter.
Oh, okay.
We can make other arrangements for here. There'll be other.
There is an alternative one in Rotorua. I'll find the date for that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a significant date for Orako. It's a commemoration day, which I'm involved in organising. Okay, couple.
All right then. Oh, well, that was a good little last meeting. Okay, everybody got everything straight. And once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
I'd like to close this if I can.
Yes, please.
O tēnā tātou, we opened the kariki and I'll close this with kariki, and it was a good hui. I feel that we've got some solutions in place and good kōrero happening, so that's cool. And we look forward to coming together again. Cool? Ka pai. Nō reira, ka ingoe tātou. Pauhihiri, paurarama, pau o te whakaaro, pau o te tangata, pau o te aroha, te pau I hiri anei a tātou, mauri tū, mauri ora, haumi e hui e, tae ki e. Nō reira, tēnā tātou.
Thank you. And the time is
2:50.
2:50, and I'd like to call our meeting officially to a close.
Very good.
Kia ora, Dave.
Thank you.